Welcome to this explainer. As a psychologist, I actually use the information we're going to cover today as a supportive handout for my own patients when they're first starting their recovery journey. So, if you've been feeling a lingering sense of emotional flatness lately, I really want to start by saying you are absolutely not alone in this. We're going to explore together what's really happening beneath the surface, and honestly, I think you'll find that what your mind is doing right now is actually quite remarkable. I want to hook you right away with this direct question. Has your inner world gone quiet? Maybe life lately feels like it's running on a muted, steady line, right? No real highs, no real lows, just a flat, continuous present. Let's start this workshop session with a quick mental snapshot. If you had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, how loud is your inner emotional world today? Let's treat this like a quick clinical checklist to see if intellectualization is currently occurring for you. You might notice that good news happens, and logically you know you should be excited, but the actual visceral reaction, it barely registers. Or when disappointments occur, you give them this kind of distant acknowledgment instead of actually feeling the sadness. And when someone casually asks, "How are you?" you genuinely struggle to answer because you aren't entirely sure what you feel anymore. Take a brief pause right now and just reflect on that. How many of these boxes are you checking? Section 1. The illusion of emotional control. How we hide from our feelings in plain sight. I want to completely reframe how we think about emotional avoidance, because it's rarely about overtly pushing feelings away or crossing your arms and refusing to talk. It's way more subtle. There's this sharp contrast between our surface appearance and our internal reality. On the outside, you look calm, rational, and composed. It often looks like incredible emotional maturity. You're analyzing, explaining, and staying busy with practical tasks. For example, maybe you find yourself analyzing a frustrating text message from a partner like it's a legal document, instead of just letting yourself feel hurt by it. But internally, your mind is keeping a subtle protective distance. You are essentially standing at the edge of the pool, brilliantly describing the water to everyone around you without ever actually stepping in. Section 2. Turning down the volume. The defense mechanism of intellectualizing. We really need to look at the neuroscience behind this emotional flatness. Intellectualization is a defense mechanism where thinking entirely replaces feeling. You are essentially trading the vulnerability of the heart for the predictability of the head. Highly self-aware people use this insightful-sounding logic to completely bypass the raw experience of the heart. And here is a fascinating fact. Your brain actually routes these signals away from the emotion center, the amygdala, and straight into your prefrontal cortex just to keep you functioning. It's a brilliant survival skill. It's not a sign that you are broken. When you catch yourself doing this in the moment, a really simple grounding technique is the 5-4-3-2-1 sensory method. Just name 5 things you see, 4 you can touch, 3 you hear, 2 you smell, and 1 you taste. It's a great way to gently pull yourself out of your head and back into the room. Your brain is just incredibly efficient at translating messy, visceral feelings into safe, logical packages. Sadness gets instantly converted into an explanation. Hurt gets translated into reasoning. Fear gets processed as problem-solving. To combat this constant translation, I usually suggest a really simple morning routine for my patients. Try drawing a line down the middle of a journal page. On the left side, list out your logical thoughts for the day. And then on the right side, try to identify the raw emotion resting right beneath them. Think of your emotional system like a master volume dial. We naturally want to turn down negative emotions like sadness, fear, and hurt, right? That makes sense. We want to avoid feeling overwhelmed. But emotions are deeply interconnected. When you turn down the negative, you inadvertently turn down the joy, the excitement, and the connection too. The exact same system protecting you from emotional overload simultaneously reduces your ability to feel fully alive. So a major milestone to track in your healing process is when you start feeling random, brief flashes of joy or even sudden irritation over really small things. That's actually a great sign. That means the dial is successfully starting to unstick. Section 3, the origin story. Why the mind initiates a protective shutdown. Let's treat this timeline like a classic patient history. First off, I really want to reassure you that you did not consciously decide to stop feeling your emotions. It doesn't work like that. It usually starts with months or even years of prolonged emotional strain, stress, or neglect. And eventually, you hit a point of nervous system overload. The emotional pain simply became more than your mind could comfortably carry. So your system executed a protective shutdown. And that leads us directly to the present. Emotional flatness and intellectualization. This numbness comes from having felt way too much for way too long, not from feeling too little. Let's just pause on this thought for a moment because it's so important. It's not that you lack feelings. Your system simply learned that feeling less was significantly safer than feeling everything. Really let that sink in. This was a protective adaptation. I always tell my patients to keep a summary list of self-compassion reminders handy for those particularly difficult emotional days. Things like, my numbness kept me safe, I am not broken, and recovery is a slow process that requires profound patience. Removing the shame is absolutely crucial for any real healing process to begin. Section 4. Relearning emotional awareness. A gentle path from the head back to the body. Okay, I have to give a very explicit clinical warning here. Forcing your emotions or confronting your avoidance too quickly will almost certainly backfire and trigger that exact same protective shutdown we just talked about. We need a very gentle roadmap to transition from analytical thinking back to intuitive feeling. Step 1 is simply pausing before analyzing. Step 2 is noticing subtle bodily sensations. And step 3 is shifting your internal questioning. The absolute key here is pacing this self-discovery. I honestly recommend my patients spend a full week just practicing step 1 before ever attempting step 2. We have to pace this process carefully so it doesn't overwhelm your nervous system. Emotions almost always begin as physical signals in the body way before they ever become logical thoughts. You might notice a slight tightness in your chest, a heaviness in your stomach, or maybe just a quiet restlessness. Let's actually do a guided activity right now. Go ahead and take a deep breath in through your nose for 4 seconds, and then slowly out through your mouth for 6. Where do you feel tension? Just practice sitting with that physical sensation right now, without trying to label it, judge it, or explain it away with your intellect. As a prompt for today, I want you to write down just one physical sensation you felt, completely without analyzing it. Now, this brings us to a massive pivot point in our workshop today. We are all so used to asking, why do I feel this way? But asking why immediately traps us in explanation and logic. The real healing shift is asking, what am I feeling right now? Moving from why to what changes your focus from explanation to actual experience. To practice this, I highly recommend a simple 5-minute evening ritual. You can use a very basic template in a notebook. Just write "today I thought," and right below it, write "but in my body, I felt." This simple, brilliant daily shift is what starts to rebuild the bridge between your mind and your heart. I want to leave you with this deeply resonant reminder. The ability to feel deeply is rarely lost forever. It has simply become quiet. Your emotional capacity is completely intact, I promise you. Your brain is just acting like a stubborn but extremely well-meaning bodyguard, keeping everything resting safely behind a filter until you are truly ready to experience it again. So please, treat yourself with immense compassion as you slowly turn that volume dial back up. To wrap up our explainer session today, I have a final provocative question for you. What quiet realization, or even a piece of music, unexpectedly woke up your inner emotional landscape recently? I'd love it if you shared it down in the comments. Hearing about these breakthroughs proves to my patients, and hopefully to you, that none of us are ever alone in this recovery. Thank you so much for joining this explainer session today. Take care of yourselves out there, and remember to just breathe.